Google Maps API and Google Places API. Each will be like 1 hour. So I'll first be doing the presentation and I'll take your questions up towards the end. Just to let you know what are the other sessions going on in the other tracks right now. So there is one session going on about mobile applications, how to quit your day job in the track 1. In track 3, we are having a session about Google Hangouts API. And in the other track, we are having Google opportunities in engineering. So if any of you are interested, you can also join those tracks. So here's our agenda for today. First, I will be giving you an introduction to the Google Maps API. Can you have the counter on? I will be giving you an introduction to the Google Maps API. We will be mainly talking about the static Maps API and the Maps JavaScript API version 3. And at the end of the first session, I will again take questions and try to maybe answer a few of them. So I'll try to keep this session very hands-on. Like we'll try to see, instead of just going into the details, nitty-gritties, we'll try to see some examples and some code snippets wherever applicable. This is a beginner level session. So the aim is to give you an overview of what all we can do with the Maps API, and then of course I know it's a developer crowd, so you can go and then dive deep in. So I know it's a pretty obvious thing, but how many of you here use Google Maps? Almost all of you. So we know that it's very useful in our day-to-day life, and most of us are using it for navigation purpose or for finding some location. But what if you want to display your own data on the Google Maps? Like you have some data that you have collected or you have generated, and that you want to show on Google Maps, which you think will be beneficial to either you or other users. What if, like, if you want to change the way it looks? I mean, we all know that it has a standard look and feel. But if you are not happy with it, or you think you can do better, you can make it look in a different manner. And what if you want to allow your users to interact with it, which you find might be beneficial to them? There enters the Google Maps API. So how many of you have actually heard of the Google Maps API before coming into the session? Okay, quite a few of you. And how many of you actually have used it? Great. So we have a pretty knowledgeable audience here. So just for the uninitiated, Google Maps has a wide array of APIs which you can use to access the functionalities and usefulness of Google Maps, and you can use them to put them on your website or your application as you think it's applicable. So before I go into the API details, I will just show you some real life examples of how the Google Maps API has been used in different places. So here is one site which shows you the earthquakes in real time. So if you see that it's a standard layout of Google Maps with some of the standard controls that are there. But apart from that, what's overlaid on that is the earthquake data, and it's in real time. So if you see that some of the black dots are darker than the others, they are the ones which has happened more recently. And then the sizes of the circles also vary, which basically tells you about the magnitude. And actually if you click on them, you can see more data. So what you see here is a standard layout of the Google Maps, and overlaid on that some extra information that this application developer has added on it. Then there is another one. This is real-time data of trains in Switzerland. So this one is actually pretty interesting. Here what you see actually is the location of the trains, and you are seeing that it's also getting updated in real time. Try to look at. So if you see those, these are the actual location trends being updated in real time. Here is one another application. This uses both Google Maps API and the Twitter API to show the tweets generating from different parts of the world. So we can see some tweets generating in India also. So this uses both the Twitter API and Google Maps API. And closer home in this one is an NGO from Chennai. So what they do is they allow the user to like build different kinds of maps. So for example, I can choose Islam eviction sites, and then if I say build my map, this one will actually go ahead and build a map of the recent slum evictions in Chennai. So again you see is like they have some data which they have superimposed on the Google Maps layer as they have found it applicable. So the question that we come initially is like, so to use the Google Maps API, do we need to code? The answer is not necessarily. There is the static maps API whereby you just form URLs, and what you get as response is the image of the map that you are interested in with some overlays on it that you have specified in that URL. So to do that, you have to start with this URL http ://maps.googleapis.com maps API. This is the standard one /static map, and then the parameters basically will specify what else you want to put on that map. You can have a look at the full developer's guide at this location. You can note down if you want to. So using this static maps API, you can basically get back an image which you can embed in your web page. So there is this is one example which will also I'll explain that what all you need to provide as parameters to the static maps API URL to generate your map image. So the required parameters are the center, which you can specify either as an address or latitude longitude format. So the map will be centered around that point. Then you can specify the zoom level, which can vary from 0 to I think 21 plus or something. 0 is the almost the world view, and as you increase the number it will zoom in. Please note that not all zoom levels are available in all the places. So like in some places the zoom level 20 might not be available, and if you specify that zoom level you will get a blank map tile. Then you get to specify the size. This is in pixels, and you can also specify the map type, like what kind of map you want to look at. You might be interested in a road map, you might be interested in a satellite image, or you might be wanting the hybrid map where like you see the satellite images and the road is superimposed on that. Finally, you can add some markers which I will come in more details later on. And the final one doesn't really affect your output, but it is required. You have to specify the sensor is true or false. What it means is the location that you are specifying, are you getting it from a device or you are coding it from yourself. Like if you are using a GPS device, the sensor should be true. So we'll try it on our browser, this link. So here you go. So basically what you see is a map tile which has a marker pointed at the apparel house here. We can play with the zoom level here, like right now it's 12. I can make it like 14 to, yeah. So just to show you, 0 is like the world view. It shows the full whole world in one map tile view. The other things I would like to show you here is like how you can change the map type. So there you go, you get a satellite view. I'll go in a deeper for or we can have it as hybrid here. So there you see the satellite view superimposed with the road data. So basically the static maps API image is like as simple as creating an URL with the right parameters. But what if we want to do it a bit more? Like we don't like the look and feel, let's say, of the Google Maps that we see, and we want to change it a bit. To do that, we need to first understand features. So a map is nothing but a set of features, like there are some roads, there are some landscapes, there is some park and things like that on the map, right? So all these features can be actually accessed and they form a tree where features colon all is the root of the tree. And like for example, if you say feature colon road, that selects the roads, and again they can have subcategories, like you only can select the highways with road.highway. Additionally, feature might have some elements. Every feature will have its own set of elements. For example, road can have geometry. So when we say road geometry, we mean that the lines that you see on the map which shows the roads. Roads can have labels which are like the name of the road that is written beside it. So with this knowledge of features and elements, we are ready to actually style the map. Say I want my roads to be in red. So what you do is you take your whatever URL you have formed already for showing the map, and now you add the style parameters. You say style is equal to feature colon road. That is basically you choose which feature you want to style, and then you put which element of the feature you want to style, which is element colon geometry here. So I only want to feature the style the geometry of the roads, and then you specify some style parameters, which here I have just specified the hue, which is the color, as red. So it's basically this is a RGB kind of string, and there you go. So if you see the difference from the earlier map, here is all the roads are in red. Now let's say if you want to distinguish the highways from the local roads, all you need to use is use the subcategory road.highway. So what you can see here is that basically you can have multiple style parameters. You can have like one style parameter for the road, one for something else, and that way. So this is the full link for it. So here you see what is like I have made the highways as red and the local roads are still in highways are in blue and the local roads are still in red. So we have multiple style parameters here, as you can see here. So if you see at the top, there is style feature is equal to road.highway, which is coming after the style feature is equal to roads at the beginning. So here is the style for the feature road, and after that we have specialized it with a style feature is equal to road.highway, and we have given it a different color. Yeah, and about markers, of course you can put multiple markers. We have already seen a map with only one marker. You can put multiple of them, and you can style your markers too. And another thing to be noted is in a static map request, you generally have to put the center and the zoom level unless and until you have the markers on them. Basically this is needed so that we know that which part of the map to serve. So if you have maps, then the Maps API will try to find out which area you are interested in and give you that area. So when you are in the company of the markers, you can safely ignore the center and zoom. So how you put in markers are like this. You add a markers parameter, you specify the marker styles. So once you are done with the styles, you put the marker location separated by pipe. So if you see an example here, there is this size, then we have the markers of, we say the color is blue, this is the style parameter for the marker, it's separated with pipe character. You should do this URL encoding, you should not just specify pipe, you should do it in a URL encoded fashion. And then we do the location of the first marker, April House, sector 44 Gurgaon, and then we give the another marker here, which is the IGI airport. So what you see here is basically a map with two markers. But come, we are developers and we don't want to just show the static map images. We want the users to interact with it. And we want to display live data on them, right? And we want to do whatever that our imagination allows us to do, and of course our programming skills allow us to do. So for us, it's like if you want to do some kind of something like that, you need Google Maps JavaScript API v3. I'll skip over this API key part. So basically what you need to do to use the JavaScript API, and I mean many of the other Google APIs. So how many of you were actually attended the API session, general API session before this? Yeah, so those of you who have attended already know that you need to get an API key to use the Google Maps, Google APIs, most of the APIs. So here also you will need a key. The key is not mandatory for the application for using the JavaScript API, but it's recommended. And it also allows you to monitor traffic for your application. So we'll see a simple example to start with. So this is nothing but a general view of the Google Maps that you generally see on maps.google.com. What we are doing here, we will just go through like a bit of the code to understand what exactly we are doing here. So if you see this is the key line here where the API is loaded. Source http://maps.googleapis.com maps API.js. So this is basically telling you to load the JavaScript library. And see, showing a map is as simple as creating a anyway, I'll use my marker here. So it's as simple as creating a map variable, which is a new Google.maps.map object, which takes a div element of the HTML page and also some map options. So the map options, if you see, are like the similar things as you have already seen in the static API. Like it takes the center, it takes a zoom element, zoom number, and it takes an ID, like what kind of map you want. So with like 4 or 5 lines of code, you are able to visualize in your API, in your application, a map which actually have all the controls. Like the user can actually change the zoom level here, just they can do in maps.google.com. They can select between different map views, like the satellite view. They can navigate to different places in the map, and so on. So what we see here is like with a few lines of code only, this is the basic that you need to do for using the JavaScript API, is load the API with maps.googleapis.com maps API/js. And here also you will see that you need the sensor parameter, which is set to false here, because we are not getting the data from any GPS device here. And we specify body that we call the initialize function, which has all this code. When in this, I don't know why this is not working. Anyway, in the onload when the body is loaded. So what you saw was a Google map centered around Sydney, and which having all the Google map controls. But we don't want to show a map of Sydney, right? We want to show something which is local, which is relevant to us. And so for that, let's say we want to put show a map which has the apparel house at the center. But wait, unlike static maps, the Google JavaScript API doesn't allow you to specify just address for marker location. So we need to specify latitude and longitude for that, for placing our marker. And for that comes in handy the Google geocoding API. So what is geocoding? I mean, it's a simple thing that given an address, it can convert the address into a latitude longitude tuple. To access the geocoding API, you have to go to this URL. You have to send a request to the URL https://maps.googleapis.com/maps/api/geocode. The output is going to be either JSON or XML, whichever format you want your output to be, and parameters needs an address. So in the address here, you see one example here. In the address, I have put apparel house, sector 44, Gurgaon, Haryana, and sensor is false. So the basic aim here is to given an address to find the latitude longitude of it. So this is the result. So what we are interested in is the geometry of it, and it's the location. This is basically the latitude longitude of this place. So now we will put a marker on this.
Excuse me, sir.
I think we.
Hello.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Pardon? Yeah, tell me.
Sir, regarding that address thing there.
I can't hear you.
Regarding that address thing there.
Yes.
That address, the address which you have written there for that, let's say apparel house sector 43 or whatever.
Yes.
So, for one place, like what all things do you need in that address? One may mention, let's say, some road number or some market area or like that. I mean, extra attributes can be there. So, how do you ensure that it will map to the same longitude, latitude?
So are you asking that if it is not a point, if it's a geographical bound, how do we return the latitude longitude?
Can be applied there as well. My question is more about how do you map a particular address
how do we
to
map?
a particular longitude, latitude?
Okay, so this is basically we have data. We have data of different places with us,
So,
and we will be using that for like we will be having data for, let's say, when you have an address, right? You can have Gurgaon.
yeah.
You can have a road name. You can have some building name. So we'll try to first find the biggest area of that, Gurgaon. We'll find, okay, where is Gurgaon? Then we'll take the road or the neighborhood area which we have given, and we'll like go into inside that one. And then again, like basically we'll start at the top and we'll come down slowly and try to find out the best match we can
So
do.
if one gives some extra attribute, it won't affect the output of your API. If let's say I have given some extra road name as well, I mean some change might be there.
Yeah, so if you give a road name, it might change the location also. Like it might, if the road actually is not on this place where you have given, right, what you are looking,
So
you
but,
might even giving a wrong address. It might happen.
Okay, but for all different address, even if there is slight change of address, each address is uniquely mapped to a longitude or longitude. Two addresses cannot be mapped to a same.
No. Two addresses. I mean, this address you have to give only one. You have to give a one formatted address. It can be formatted, or it can be some other words, depending on how famous that place is. Like if I want Taj Mahal, I guess if I give just Taj Mahal, you will get the location. But apparel house, I don't know.
So if I say, let's say Taj Mahal, Agra, and then state as well, so will it be mapped to the same Taj Mahal or
Taj Mahal, Agra, and what?
state as well?
That will be the same Taj Mahal, right? I mean, if you are giving extra information which is not misleading, that won't affect the result. What I will do is I will take the questions at the end of the session so that I can finish the session in time and then have all of my questions. Right? Yeah. So what we were looking at is like how to put the marker. So earlier we have already seen the code of how to have the map displayed on your screen. So here is the extra code that we need. Again, like if you see, it's like 3 lines of extra code. You create a object Google Maps.marker and you specify the position, which is the latitude longitude that we had just found out. So if you see, it has been defined here. And you also specify the map, which map you want to display on. Remember, we have created the map object earlier. So there you go. Now the marker can have some interesting properties you can change. This is the basic marker that you will see in Google Maps. If you are not happy with this or want to create your own icons, you can do it. Like here is a star, which we have defined here with scalable vector graphics format. There are, you can also have images for this. You can have a title, which basically is like a tooltip. So when you take your mouse there, it will show the whatever you have specified in the title of the marker. Another interesting thing you can do is you can make the marker draggable, like the user can change the location like this. So this you might also be able to use in your application in different ways. Okay, so so we saw how to put a marker, and now let us do something. Let us put some life into this marker. So to do this, we need to understand events. So remember, we initially talked that we are going to make the maps interactable with the user. So to do that, we have to listen to user events, right? So user events are generated when user clicks on some of the objects on the maps, on the Google Maps. Like they click, they double click, or they mouse over on that marker, or even if they zoom the map tiles, a different event will be created. Also, we get other kind of event, which is the object state changes. For example, when I drag that marker right in the earlier screen, the marker was at some position, and after it was dragged, it went to some other position. So the state of that object changed. So we will get events for this also. So to actually listen and then react to events, you have to add listener. You have to use the function add listener. The add listener takes 3 parameters. It takes an object, basically which object you are interested in. It takes an event to listen to, like for example, it can be a click or a double click. And it wants to make a function which will be triggered when that event happens on that object. For example, here you see google.maps.event.addListener marker click callback, which means that when somebody clicks on the object called marker, call this function called callback. And see, now our marker can bounce. So basically what I am doing here is animating the marker. So this is the code which is doing it. So after creating the marker, what we are doing is we are adding a listener to it, saying that on click, call the function toggle bounce. And so what we do is every time that toggle bounce is called, we see whether the marker already has the animation. If it's not there, we set it to google.maps.animation.bounce. So basically every time we click on it, the animation property of the marker gets toggled. So we just saw the user events, that is when a user clicks on on something, what happens, or it can be any other user event. The other event that we talked about was the object state change, and we will see that live, and also we will learn about info windows. So here we see that we are moving this marker, and the moment we move it, what we see is the map is panning to that one, panning to the making it again the center of the map, and it's also giving the current location of the marker. So if I keep changing it, you will see that the latitude and longitude of the marker is changing. So for that we have added another event listener here, which actually listens for a property change of an maps object. In this case, it's the position change of the marker. So whenever you drag the marker and move it to some other place, a position change event is triggered, and on that we call the pan map function. This pan map function. So here we do what? We get the position of the new position of the marker through the position get marker dot get position. It gives back the latitude longitude of the new position of the marker, and then we do a show info. What show info does is, here we see what's an info window. So this is called an info window on a map. Here is where you can display the different information that you want to the user, and to display whatever you want, you have to set content of the info window. I am at, and we set the marker dot get position here. Now let us find some more useful applications of the API. So let's say I am in Delhi and I want to, I am staying in this place, nearby place, and I want to see where all the other places are, and I know of the place names, but I don't know exactly how far or where they are. So we'll need to, so basically what I need is, I want to type in addresses, and I want to them to show up on the map, and I want them to be there. Like once let's say I look for Indira Gandhi International Airport, the marker shows up on the map, and then I look for maybe the IIT Delhi, that should also show up, and basically all of them should stay on the map, not go away. So what you can understand here is, to do this we will need to do some geocoding again, and this time it's going to be done dynamically. Like as a developer, I don't know what the user will be going to type. So whatever he types, I need to take care that my code can take that information and find the latitude, longitude for that by itself. So herein we will introduce the concept of service in the Maps API. So Maps API can actually use different services, and one of them is the geocoding service. So how is it different from the earlier one that you have seen? Is there you form the URL, you trigger it, and you get the latitude, longitude back. Here what happens is, the API gets the information and does all this for you. So we will type in IGI airport, New Delhi, and we will say add marker, and see a marker is added at the airport. I will say India Gate, Delhi, and another marker is added. So as a application developer, you can allow the user to add the markers of his interest and let them there be on the map for him to look at different things. He might plan his day out depending on how these places are on the map. So if you look at it, this is also very easy to do. What we do is, we create an object called google.maps.geocoder. This is the object we create, and then whenever the user types in something in that input field, we call this function code address. What that does is, it takes the value from this field and it tells the geocoder to geocode it. It gives the address, and additionally it gives it a callback function. It gives a callback function as I have highlighted there, so which looks at the status of the call. So basically when you ask the geocoder to geocode, it's asynchronous call, it doesn't return back immediately. So we give it a callback. When it returns, execute this function. We see whether the status of the geocoding is okay. If it's okay, we then call, we have already looked at that kind of code, google.maps.marker, and we basically find the geometry.location which will have the latitude, longitude, and then we will make the map pan to that point. So map pan to basically, when what you are seeing is whenever the marker is coming up, right, the map is going and centering it. So map pan to will do that for you. So again, it's like a few lines of code which allows you to geocode and do different things. I mean, it's all basics, depends on what you want to do there. Now what happens sometimes is, I mean, let's say you are looking at the map and like you are looking at something here and you want to move on the left or on the right top, and you want to go at different places, and then suddenly you feel, oh shit, you have lost where you cannot figure out where exactly you were starting looking from. So won't it be nice if you have something called a home control? Like on clicking that, you can set something as your home, and when you click that, it will return you back to the place. Like for example, I am at the apparel house. I am looking at the map related to the apparel house, and after looking at, I want to come back to apparel house on the map whenever I want to. Like I want to click one button and go there. So that brings us to the concept of map controls. Already we have a few built-in controls in the map which we have already seen, like the zoom control, which allows you to zoom the map. Then there is the pan control which allows you to go on left, I mean different directions, east, west, north, south. Then there is this map type control which allows you to choose the road map or satellite type or hybrid type, whatever you want to. There is something called built-in control called scale control, which is not enabled by default, but we will try to enable it now. So it's exactly one line in the map options. We say scale control is equal to true, and what we see is a new control here, which will show the scale of the map, which was not there in the earlier ones. So if you zoom, you will see that the scale is changing. So again, what you see is like just by adding one option in the map options, you can control whatever you want to, what are the controls you want to show on the map for the user to use. Not only that, you can also style and position them on the map as you want. Like if you want the zoom to be on the left, you can have it on the right according to your wish. So now we will see the custom control. Yeah. So what you see now is new is the here you see a new button called home here. So what happens with this is if I move away and I click home, I go back to the same point where I was initially started off. So you can specify, you can allow the user to choose his home, or you can have your inbuilt home in your map. So to add a custom control, what you need to do is, if you think of it, first of all you need to display that control on the map. Like you need to specify how the control will be displayed on your map, right? Secondly, you need to know how the user is going to interact with that control. So you need to define two things. One is how the control will look, and second is how the control can be interacted with the user. I won't go into details of this code, but mostly what I will try to show you is like how it's done. So if you see that what we are creating is, we are creating a div element and then giving that div element to a new home control object. Again, this is not something defined, this is something that you are defining. So what you are giving it is a div object and the map. So this is the object that will show, and this is the map where you want to show it. In the home control, we are basically giving the look and feel of the control, how it will look. And finally, there is one typical, one very critical line which defines the behavior of the control. So what we are doing is, we are telling it on click, map.pan to my latitude longitude, which has been predefined as the apparel house's latitude longitude. So this is where you define how the user can interact with the control. So once you have defined this, what we do is, map.control is an array, and we add this our custom control to that array with we say where we want to see it. So we say that control position is top right, and this home control div we give it to the controls array, and that's it. So we have basically specified the control behavior and the control position, and we get what we want. There are more services that you can add to the use to the Google Maps API. One of them very interesting is the distance metric service. So what it does is it computes the travel distance and journey duration between a set of sources and a set of destinations. Basically, if you give source A, B and destination C, D, it will tell you the distance and the time of journey between A and C, A and D, B and C, and B and D. It's basically computes the metrics. So what we might be interested in, like as a user, I have already marked some points on the map. Now I want to find out the distance of those points from my position. What I will do is I will add a few points. So we have added 2 points here, you can see. Now we will say that calculate the distances of these points. And there you go. So now we see that it says IGI Airport New Delhi is 17.4 kilometers from here. Don't go by the transit time, because I don't know, in Bangalore never, it's always underestimated. I don't know what happens in Delhi. Basically, we don't have much traffic data in India yet, so we cannot always estimate the time properly. But still, I mean, you can see that kilometer, and you can make a rough idea according to the time that you are going to travel. And we hope the data will get better as time progresses. There are a lot of other services that you can use on your maps and to create better apps. One is the direction, which gives you the transit directions from one point to another. There is elevation, which gives you the height of different places. And there is this street view, which will give you actual panoramic 360-degree views of different places on the road. This is not there for all the countries, but whichever country is enabled, you can see them, you can use them. Before wrapping up, we will talk a bit about layers, which is like objects on the map that actually, so earlier we were seeing single objects. So we are seeing markers, right? And like we are seeing some data on the map which we could manipulate separately. So layers are something that is on the map which consists of multiple elements, and the presentation is done by handled by the map API itself. You can add a layer as a whole, and it will change as you pan to different areas in the map. So here what you see is like we are showing a weather and cloud layer on the superimposed on the map of North India, and you can actually pan to different places and you can see the data of those places also. You can use all the controls that actually are there, and the data will change accordingly. So what you see here is we don't control which cities are to be shown here, or like like we cannot change the location of where they are marked. What only we can do is like we have created a weather layer here, if you see, new google.maps.weather layer, and we have just specified the units. So there are some properties of the layer you can change. Here we have said that Celsius is the temperature we want to see, and we set the map on which one to see. That is the default map itself here. Same, we have done one more for the cloud layer here. That's it. So with only this few lines of code, you get to see the different temperature of the different cities in India. Again, this data you can use it for different purposes for your application. So what else? You can look into more details of this API in developers.google.com maps documentation. You can get information about licensing and quotas at developer.com maps/licensing. If you want to actually look at other cool stuff that other developers have built and get inspired, go to developers.google.com showcase. So it doesn't only showcase Maps 1, but it actually shows all the different APIs that have been used, that the developers have used to create some cool APIs, cool applications, and some of them will be using Maps. And that's it. So you can get your API key today and start building your own applications. So you can get the API key at code.google.com API/console.